एवरीवन, दिस इज जन्नत अली कमाल और आप देख रहे हैं हिंदुस्तान। आर्ट से न सिर्फ जज्बात और तासुरात का इजहार किया जाता है, बल्कि इंसान के रहन सहन, सकाफत, मजहब और ज़िंदगी के दीगर पहलू भी उजागर किए जाते हैं। हिंदुस्तान ने फ़न के शोबे में गुज़िश्ता बरसों के दौरान बहुत तरक्की की है और कई मुसव्वरों को आलमी सतह पर पज़िराई भी हासिल हुई, लेकिन हिंदुस्तान आर्ट के शोबे में बाकी दुनिया से बहुत पीछे दिखाई देता है। आज के प्रोग्राम में बात करेंगे हिंदुस्तान की आर्ट इंडस्ट्री की मौजूदा सूरत हाल और इस शोबे से वाबस्ता अफराद को किन मुश्किलात का सामना है। हमारे साथ रहिएगा। हमारे साथ कॉल पे मौजूद है अरुण शिवदासानी, हु इज़ एग्जीक्यूटिव एंड आर्टिस्टिक डायरेक्टर, फाउंडिंग मेंबर ऑफ इंडो अमेरिकन आर्ट्स काउंसिल. And we also have on call with us Kanika Diwan, who is an interior designer, World Economic Forum Young Global Leader of 2016. And the most important thing, she is the chairperson and founder of Car Design Atelier. Thank you both for joining us. Arun, I would like to start with you. Arun, what is the scope of an artist in Hindustan?
Well, art in India, and I'm sure since you know the subcontinent, have been part and parcel of the DNA of the subcontinent. And India is certainly has had the arts for centuries. During the British rule there, Indian arts still were there, they still flourished, but sort of not out there and not appreciated by all because they were not given the opportunity. However, immediately after partition, the progressives, Souza, Raza, Hussain, Ara, Gade, Bakre, and then others like Ram Kumar and all came forward. And I mean, they were already existed, but they formed the Bombay Progressive Artist Group, and art started becoming popular and started being recognized by people in India. Similarly, in theatre today, I think theatre is really going way beyond bounds. We've got people converting film into theatre. We've always had itinerant theatre. People going from village to village performing. Now it's huge. It's not quite like we have it in New York, where plays run forever, for ages. In India, people tend to go to the theatre on weekends, or they have short runs. For music, there's no tomorrow. I mean, music just is. We've got amazing musicians, Amjad Ali Khan, Vilayat Khan. We had Ravi Shankar, who passed away. And we've got many, Hari Prasad Chaurasya. We've got amazing artists who are recognized, people flock to them. Concerts are always over full. So, and of course, dancers. We started off with the temple dancers way back beyond. The arts in India are flourishing and are appreciated.
Kanika, you being an artist, so how do you see the scope of artists in Hindustan?
Well, I guess I would call myself an artist who's tried to bring art into the commercial space. And for the richness of art in India, which is in every part, as Arun had said, from ancient times, India has always been a very artistic society, an artistic country, where, artisans in the villages would use the extreme poverty that is basically depicted or associated with India in those days, even when there was British rule. And I think, however, what always happened was we had springing artists from all over the country in villages which expressed themselves and expressed what they were going through in their buildings, in their clothing, in their shoes. You have art everywhere, in the culinary areas, in cooking, and a lot of that was not recognized in the way it is in the West. And yes, I think that's changing. But I think what I feel is that there is still a lack of recognition for those true artisans who are in the villages. So, for example, you might have heard that Christian Louboutin and Sabassachi, for example, have
Yes.
engaged in a partnership where it brings art. It sort of art is being recognized in the shoes they're making, and that was something very traditional from ancient times. That you would even the shoes would be artistic and colorful, and time would be taken to produce those, and even those would be worn from in the villages as well as in the cities.
Huge difference between art and artisans, and whereas I completely agree with you, whether it's Durga Puja in Calcutta or Ravan or the Ganesh Pujas, and they make these amazing statues, but then they're either burnt or they're thrown into the sea, which according to custom, and though the people who make them are not completely recognized. So yes, that has to be, but that's
absolutely right. And in fact, it's been nice to see, and you're right, I feel like it's a slow process, slower than it has been in places like Europe. But yes, on the positive note, I'm sure you've also noticed with the MCD joining forces with Delhi street art, where they recently had painted the flyovers, which are often covered with sort of pan masala, spit, and urination stains, were basically, the MCD had started realizing with this movement that we should really adorn our streets with what India is about.
History shows Hindustan absorbed all the cultures of foreigner invaders and rulers, but its own color never faded. Why now most Hindustani artists are copying the Western art and culture?
actually that's not true. I don't believe that's true. I think that people are inspired by different artists. People learn from different artists, as did the Western artists. But I don't think they're copying them. If you actually look at the art, you will see that a lot of it is very original, very creative, very thought out. And people are now going into deep into India, into the villages to try and draw from that. If you even look at the textiles, see what's coming out. I don't think there's that much copying. At one stage, straight after partition, I think all of a sudden people, or even 20 years after that, people thought, oh, the West is so wonderful and let's copy. India is now coming into its own, and I don't think they're doing that much copying.
Kanika, what do you say about it?
I think you're right in terms of, I don't think the artists are actually copying, and I think the fundamental difference here is how, as Arun was saying, how do we define art? And so in my viewpoint, when Arun was saying, there's artisans and there's artists, and I feel that I think it's time for that line to become blurred and incorporate them into the artist category and what we perceive as art. But I think in terms of the copying, I don't think the actual artists are copying. I think what's happening is the curation and the display of this, especially in public spaces which are often seen by foreigners. For example, airports, and that's something I can talk about, where we've done the design and build of the Delhi International Airport and Mumbai, and what happens is, it was interesting because I did find that there was a hesitation with Delhi being the first of the PPPs to emerge, where they do put they have sporadic pieces of art and they're sort of increasing that, but yes, they ended up going towards sculptures which in fact were adopted by the West. So a Western
Kanika,
touch
do you
to them,
think
and maybe not as traditional.
Kanika, do you think classical art in Hindustan is losing its charm?
No, I don't think it's losing its charm. I think it's how it is used. I think it's still there. It is very much, in fact, globally appreciated now, classical art. But I think the issue is that this needs to be showcased better in public spaces versus just in the art galleries. And I think that's why there is a global impression of what is traditional art, classical art versus what you think is being copied, just because, for example, you do sort of see the Surya expression everywhere shown as something Indian, which is not necessarily the only Indian piece of art that you can exhibit. And so I think it is on the onus of the government to provide budgets to spaces such as airports, etc., where we should literally move. I mean, if you can have an allocation for a defense budget, I know the external affairs has a budget, but that needs to change, and that needs to be provided to other public-private partnerships, so it can be encouraged in hotels as well as airports and other public spaces.
I would ask both of you, like in Hindustan society, the parents, they encourage their children to become doctors, engineers, but artist becoming an artist is not encouraged that much. Do you think that we can blame the society for this?
You know, I have to jump in over here.
Yes.
Because I completely agree with you, Indian parents. And I do believe this is a world phenomenon, not that much in the West, but it is there. People always want their children to be, after their education, we give them basic education, and then they want them to study more, become doctors, lawyers, engineers, etc., to earn a living. However, perceptions are changing, more in the urban area, more in the area where people can perhaps afford it. Parents can afford to indulge their children. It's unfortunate. But people are changing, and artists are becoming passionate about what they do. And you notice now more and more artists, not only visual artists, but performing and visual and literary artists are all out there in the public domain and being quite successful. As you know, artists world over, if you haven't made it, you're going to starve.
I exactly agree. I think this is, with Arun, it is changing. In fact, when she was talking about the visual arts and even theatre, it's very interesting. You'll see now these days when you go into places like Lodi Garden, for example, even if it's not something being funded or encouraged, you're seeing the youth. And I think they're the key. That is changing this understanding of art being lucrative as a career, because you see them in their spare time. You have people ranging from 15 to 25-year-olds where they're actually performing their own expression of theater in places like Lodi Garden, where people usually go for their evening walk and their morning walk. And I think this is therefore changing that traditional form of what art is and why art is important and can it be lucrative. And to take that step further,
Kanika and Arun, I would like to have 2 lines from both of you. Why aren't the rich people of Hindustan investing into artists?
You know, I am going to answer that, and I'm sure Kanika will have her take on it too. But I do believe that not all, but some of the wealthy people in India are investing in it. I know that we've had some of them donating even to the Met over here. There are people who are donating, trying to open galleries and help folk art and do all sorts of things in India. So they should be doing more, but some of them are doing it. I do believe they are. They need to be encouraged. And this is, I think, the world over, you always need a sponsor. Need people
Kanika, what do you say about it?
I actually think they are investing. And so I actually don't agree with your statement necessarily that they're not investing. In fact, it is very much there. And the thing about India is there's such a bandwagon philosophy that even if they don't understand art, you always find the wealth in India investing in art. You just have to have your next door neighbor investing. I think the issue is not that. I think the issue is the government is not investing in budgets that incorporate art in education. And that will solve a lot of the questions that you are speaking about.
So you say that if the government focuses on the artists, specifically on arts, then this thing can improve.
Art in education, it has to start early. For example, in England and Europe, we were taught, we had a specific class devoted to art and expression, but also learning about the artists. So you can ask an Indian child about artists globally, and they'll know about them. They'll know about the Impressionists, but very few will know about the art, an Indian child in America sitting in school, or an Indian child even in India knowing about the artists that Arun spoke of, and even though they're very well acclaimed. So I think that is where it starts, and that's where the change will come in terms of the questions that you were asking about, going back to what our roots are.
हमारे साथ कॉल पे मौजूद थी कानिका दीवान और अरुण शिवदासानी। उन्होंने अपना अपना ओपिनियन दिया हिंदुस्तान की आर्ट्स के बारे में। हिंदुस्तान की आर्ट्स का मुस्तकबिल क्या होता है ये तो वक्त ही बताएगा। मजीद जानने के लिए देखते रहिए dbtv.live पे हिंदुस्तान।